Greetings, this is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. So, everyone likes to talk about astral projection and Kabbalah, but the thing is, it's mostly a lot of talk. And with being a lot of talk, there's not very much action. So when it comes to the tree, it makes a lot of sense to make sure that you have some practical experience to fill in those gaps and lines of knowledge. With all that being said, the Tree of Life consists of 10 Sephirah, if you don't know, and 32 paths. Each of these Sephirah and each of these paths represent something they represent a specific context. The content that they represent is going to depend on the situation, but the context and the relationship of these symbols are pretty straightforward. In any case, with there being a collection of, 22 paths, 10 Sephirah, that makes 32 paths in total, to really understand this machinery of reality, to really understand it, we've got to come into not only a knowledge, but also an experiential understanding of the experiences that come along with the paths on this tree. Now, because most people aren't initiated into this information, they take certain keywords and phrases and fill in their own blanks, and oftentimes delude and deceive themselves into understanding what it is that they don't actually understand. So, what happens is we get certain terms and phrases like the astral plane and the etheric plane and egregores and Malkuth and all this other stuff. We get all these words, but because they're not backed up with actual experience, and because these words and these symbols aren't attached to something tangible, it's left in fantasy world. So the point and the purpose of this video is to talk about the very first step on the path. I mentioned before that most people don't make it to the Yasod level, let alone Tifereth. The first step on the path is the 30-second path. And this is the path of the world, of the universe. And this is the first step. And for most people, this is the last step. You hear what I'm saying? It's the first step for everyone, but for most people, it's the last step because they don't get past that. Right? And you may be one of those people, because here's the thing. This is, for most incarnations, this 30-second path is the first time that they've experienced something beyond their five senses. So with this being your first time, it's easy to get deceived because you don't know what to expect. As a matter of fact, you're in the process of learning, so you literally don't know what you don't know. You don't know what's truth and what's a lie. You don't have a criteria to base these things off of. Because get this, in the physical plane and the material plane, you have a criteria to understand between right and wrong. Is this efficient? Is this inefficient? You get what I'm saying? You have a criteria because you've been here so long, you've been doing it for so long. You know whether or not you should do something or not do something on the material plane. When it comes to the astral plane, you don't have enough data to make that kind of decision. So the first virtue of Malkuth is mastering discernment. That's being able to know reality from non-reality. That's being able to know what's important and what's not important. That's being able to divide between content and context. So if you haven't developed the skill of discernment, you're not going very far past the 30-second path. And if you don't know, the 30-second path is the very first path connecting Malkuth to Yasod, right? This isn't necessarily going to be a video for beginners. This is actually going to be intermediate. To some people, this is going to be advanced. But if you're hearing this video and you want to get the most out of it, then you should have an understanding of, what the Tree of Life looks like, the names of the spheres, a concept of Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, which is basically God, Generator, Operator, Destroyer, right? Which is also passion, inertia, and balance, right? You should have you should have been watching my channel for the past couple of months because we talked about all this in great detail. And all those things are foundational to be able to understand what happens when you actually work on the tree. I know that a lot of people know Kabbalah words, but they don't know how to do any of this. So like I said, the first step is working on the 30-second path. All right. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to read a portion of a book. It's a book that I've shown on my channel all year long. I continually said to purchase this book because it'll be an important reference in learning how to decode and decipher the Tree of Life. All right. So if you're interested in this, right, if you're here to actually learn something today, hit the like button, because there's like 50% likes to the people that are here. If this is something that you want to know, hit the like button. That's the least you can do. If not, then enjoy the entertainment, I suppose. But if you're here to learn something, please keep in mind how important these symbols are. They're not just arbitrary, and it usually takes some contemplation on these symbols to really break it down. So let's get started. I'm going to be reading from the Qabalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. And as I mentioned, there's a few things that must be understood to really get the most out of this. I'm going to go over that real quick, and then I'm going to read the chapter. Not even the chapter, it's a couple pages. Oops. Zoom out. And as of course, peace to everybody here. There we go. Peace, peace. Sud Ejects, my friend. Peace, peace. Tian Pomeroy, peace. Garrett Patterson, peace. Basil Ether, peace. Alligator the Greater, what's up, peace, peace. Azrael Walker, greetings, greetings. Mad Titan, peace. Romany77, peace. Wealthy, peace, peace. All right, and to everyone else who hasn't said anything else in the chat, welcome. Let's get down to it. So what do I have in front of me? I got a bunch of tarot cards because the tarot cards are a representative of the symbols, of the archetypes that represent the energies of the tree. What is the tree? This is a schematic of understanding the universe, understanding how the cosmos interacts with itself. Okay? So the numbers represent the different levels of relationship. The number one represents unity and wholeness of everything. There's no separation. Everything is one thing. The number two represents the dual aspects of reality, which is consciousness and matter. Consciousness and matter. Number three, this is where it gets interesting. And I repeat this because you really got to understand this to go deep. The three represents the gunas, the three modes of nature: rajas, tamas, sattva. Got it? Good. The four represents the four elements: earth, fire, air, water. The five represents the four elements and the hidden fifth that controls everything, which includes spirit or ether. All right, and it goes on and on and on. It goes on and on and on. It goes all the way up to 6, right? Which now you're getting to the third dimension because that represents the cube, 3D, right? You get to 7. 7 represents the classical planets. Okay, you got to know this stuff by heart. 7 represents the classical planets, which are Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon. Those are the 7 classical spheres. Yeah, I know we discovered Uranus and Neptune and Pluto since then, but that's not included in this research. All right. So keep that to the side. Don't try to squeeze it in where it doesn't fit, because the system is made in such a way that all the parts and pieces make sense with each other. Now, speaking of 7, notice where those 7 are located. The moon, Mercury, Venus, the Sun, Mars, Jupiter, Saturn. These comprise of what is known as the macrocosm, the higher self. Right? Malkuth represents the physical body, the lower self. Then, of course, the Father, which is the spirit, right, represents these two guys up here. Because this is the spirit as one, this is the spirit broken off into 2, right? Into the masculine, back into the feminine, so on and so forth. All right? This might sound like Chinese if you don't know anything about Kabbalah, but if you've been watching my channel, this is just a recap. Now, as life, energy, consciousness, whatever you want to call it, pours in from the outside, pours in from the nothing, from the beyond, from that which we cannot conceive of, right? As it pours forth into manifestation, it rapidly follows a certain path of unfolding. From non-existence to total existence, there's a path, right? And at each pass, that uniform, perfect consciousness slowly starts to become, what's the word? It goes from being very general to something very specific. So we get a life force that may all of a sudden go through a process and manifest as a head of cabbage, right? Or a babysitter at a nursery school, or a dangerous war criminal, or fat pig, right? Or a kangaroo. Doesn't matter what the life force is going to become. As it goes down this process, this conveyor belt, it starts to become what's needed, right? And that process is eternal. It's eternally unfolding. Now, each one of these paths represents one of the stages of that unfolding process. Okay? So, any of these given paths are going to represent one of those stages. Now, there's something curious going on. You notice there in the background, there's a figure of a person, right? One thing to remember is that the person going forward through time, through space, forward towards the light, you're going to find that your left shoulder is here and your right shoulder is here, right? If you're going forward. But if you're going backward, if you're turned around, things are going to be reversed. So that's important for you to know when you're doing your meditations and visualization. In any case, moving forward, what that means is that your position is starting at Malkuth and you're moving forward back up the tree. Okay? Back up the tree. That's why I just said what I said about left and right. You're moving up the tree, you're moving forward if your left is here and your right is here. All right? Now, if you're moving backward, coming down the tree from Kether to Malkuth, like I said, it's going to be reversed. So now we're talking about average, everyday people who suddenly hear about some spiritual stuff and now they want to know more. Now they want an experience. Now they want to advance and evolve. So what that means is you're going to go back up. Now the first path that you cross going back up is going to be this path right here, the 30-second path. This is called the world. It's called the universe. The color is black because the experience here relates to the experience of Saturn, or what we call Bina, right? Let me know if you're with me so far. All this is primer and intro stuff, by the way. 13 minutes of intro stuff. Okay, Romani77 asks, are the paths one-way or two-way? Well, that's what I mean. They're doors, they're channels, they're vessels. If you're going upwards, you're going that way. If it's coming down, it's going that way. So obviously it's going to be two ways. All right, so we're going to focus on this first path because 99% chance that's where you are, right? Most people do not go past this path, so don't even talk about this path or any of these other paths. So to get this clarified means you have a way to really ensure and check that you are advancing. All right, let's keep going. So I don't want to spend too long on that. Now, I've mentioned before a specific thing. I said there's only three goddesses, right? I said there's only three gods. That's Durga, that's Saraswati, and that's Lakshmi. That doesn't mean that there's just three women out in space somewhere celebrating with their cups. By the way, the colors associated with the gunas are typically red, yellow, and black. And sometimes it's red, yellow, and white, right? Those are the colors typically associated with the gunas. No surprise, red, yellow, white, red, yellow, white. You've also got red, yellow, black. Right, so no surprise, when dealing with threes, no matter what, you're dealing with the three gunas. Even this High Priestess card has three points of interest, with her being in the center, that being Sattva. You get me? All right, let's keep going. Also, the three is going to be symbolized as the Empress. Because again, depending on which direction that you are working, she's either going to be fertile or barren. Now check this out. If every soul goes down the tree and back up the tree, right? And these are the two poles, Saturn here, and black, this path, 32nd path, is also represented by Saturn. And what happens when you talk about the princess and the queen? This is the throne that the princess sits on, and one day she will become the queen. And it's also called the sterile mother and the fertile mother. And what that has to do with what direction you're coming from. See, one of these, you're only going to penetrate once. And the other end is going to be penetrated by everybody. That's why sometimes she's called the virgin and the whore at the same time. Because life force only comes down through her once. That's the virgin aspect. And then if you're coming down, that means everyone and everything is going to come down this path. That's the whore aspect. But check this out. You're only going to die once. So that's the once penetration into the womb of death, into the womb of the other side. But guess what? Everybody's going to die. So every form comes through this womb. And in that direction, it would be the whore. You get what I'm saying? So you'll often see the queen and the princess known as the sterile and the fertile. Sometimes the virgin and the whore. Right? Has nothing to do with actual human sex. It has everything to do about what direction you're working from. All right? All this is key. I'm trying to get this all out the way before we read. But also understand that this is 1, 2, 3, the third Sephirah. This is the third one. So it's very important, like I said, about the threes. You're dealing with the symbology of the gunas, right? Now, if you remember from the readings that we did from the Bihar School of Yoga and all the yoga books about Samkhya, we know that Prakriti is the divine feminine. Prakriti is Mother Nature, the matrix, the womb, Bina, the queen herself, right? And what she's composed of are the three gunas. Prakriti is made of the three gunas. No surprise, we got these cards of threes, right? You see these three women. It's not an accident. These three swords, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva, right? These three people, right? Somebody's the mediator. Somebody's got the plan in their hands. That's Tamas. And then somebody's doing the work. That's Rajas, right? Whenever you see threes, you're talking about the three gunas. You'll even notice there, right? Look at how this one is separated, Sattva. Look at how this one is planted into the ground, Tamas. Look at how he's holding on to that one, right? With his right hand, action. Remember what I said, looking at what direction you're facing. You see? See, facing into evolution with Gibra on your left, Chesed on your right. Excuse me. Gibra on your left, action. Chesed on the right. So what direction is he facing? But anyways, Bina, we know, is where form begins. This is the root of form. Threes. The root of when pure spirit becomes something, right? Prakriti. All right. So I think that's pretty sufficient. We can now move on with the actual part. And by the way, just in case you don't know, just in case, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. See? We can say generation, operation, destruction. Generator, operator, destroyer. You've heard that before. Now, as I said, those represent the only three goddesses, the only three forces, the only three deities that exist. Sattva would be the empress. Rajas would be the high priestess. Tamas would be strength. And remember, Tamas is represented by Durga. The empress is represented by Lakshmi. And the high priestess is represented by Saraswati. All right, you seeing that? All right, a lot of information, but some of y'all know. This is the internet. It'll last forever. If you don't get it now, you will definitely get it later. Let's continue. I finally found out the importance of the Goetia on the tree. It's no coincidence that each of the ranks of spirit lines up with one of the 7 spheres. Isn't this a cool picture? What's he doing? He is ascending from Malkuth into Yesod and beyond. Cool stuff. Alright, let's get to this chapter. Alright, so understanding this is going to really clarify the work that is done on the astral plane. Not so much the work, but more of the context, right? Not so much the content, but the context, right? If this is not understood, it's extremely easy to get lost. I would know, because it has happened to me for a very long time. The first path, the first step for everyone, and the last step for most people, the world. So before we start, I want you to think to yourself, and even if you like to type, write in the chat what this card means to you, and what do you see here? Especially considering everything that I just said. If there are only 3 goddesses, then I wonder which of the 3 women is that right there, right? Really consider everything. Remember what I said about Rajas, Tamas, Sattva, and Tamas, right? Now look right here. This woman in this picture is one of these 3 women, one of these 3 goddesses. See, the cool thing about Vedic and Hindu mythology is that even though there's hundreds of thousands of gods and goddesses, they're all only avatars of the main 3. So that is something that you're also going to see reflected in Western magic. These 3 represent the one force, but this woman right here is one of these women. Go ahead and plant your guess now. Is it the High Priestess, Empress, or Strength? All right, let's begin. Let's begin. Alligator says Saraswati. I wonder what makes you say that. Right? Anamali says Empress. I wonder what makes you say that. Gary Patterson says Strength. Slash says Empress. Okay. I wonder what makes you say that. Based on the information that you have, I wonder what makes you say that. But this is good, right? Because you trust your intuition to start putting these pieces together. One of y'all was right. Then again, y'all said all 3, so. Also, if you actually have this book, go to the beginning. There's actually a diagram here that tells you what all cards are in what place, right? Now, this universe card that we're about to go over, that is actually right here on the middle pillar. Universe. Major clue. But then again, we've got Durga, Saraswati, and Lakshmi. That was a trick of a clue, but you'll figure it out as we get through. All right, so here we go. If you have your tarot deck out, go ahead and grab that card. Analyze it. Because I also talked about the 4 represents the 4 elements. I talked about the 5 represents the hidden 5th element. I talked about the 3s as well. 1, 2, 3. I talked about the 1, right? And if you see a snake symbol or snake swallowing itself, that represents Hakma. The 3 represent Bina. All right, let's go to it now. Here we go. The path of Tao, the universe, the 21st key. You see where it is on the tree. Those are the symbols. You notice that's a Saturn symbol. You notice that's a doorway, right? WT says, I say she's Sattvic because she has 2 in her hand, and that tells me balance. Excellent. Nicole Berkeley says, completion of a cycle and entrance into the next. Indeed. All right. The path is indigo. The related sound is A natural, right? If you do music, the key of A natural. The planet associated with it is Saturn. The meaning is Tau, cross, equal armed cross. Okay. The double letter And what that means is the major arcana on the tree are typically going to represent, like I said, a gateway or a doorway. And when it's a gateway or a doorway, it's the key to one thing or another. For example, the Wheel of Fortune is right here between Chesed and Netzach. And that is the doorway between wealth or poverty, right? So right here, the world, this is actually the gateway between power or servitude, all right? Now, this is why this is really important. As Nicole Berkeley just said, the last comment in the chat here, she said, completion of a cycle and entrance into the next. So here's the thing. Most people get stuck on this path. It says here the doorway is power or servitude. Most people, when they enter in this doorway, they don't understand what they're seeing, so they start to give servitude to the universe. And as I said before, if you find yourself as one of the Matrix's children, you must be destroyed. If you find yourself as the lover of the Matrix, the father, the masculine, the man, the masculine, then the Matrix must do what you say. What's the difference? The masculine father exists outside of her. The child exists within her. Must be destroyed. So this is actually the passageway between power and servitude. Those of us who are mature on this path and actually have discernment, which is the virtue of Malkuth, we're able to discern between what we are submissive to and what we are dominant to. The person who doesn't have occult wisdom doesn't know that distinction. So they're going to serve lesser gods, and they're going to try to dominate forces that are beyond their control. Either way, they're going to live in illusion, right? That's why this astral plane level is the most deceptive, because if you don't have the background, you're going to get confused. Now, this path right here is the gateway between power or servitude. So you're going to encounter things. You're either going to serve them or they will become your power. That's not determined on what you say right now. That's determined on what happens when you get there, right? It's not determined on nothing that you say to yourself right now or in this chat. It's determined on what happens when you're face to face with this experience. You're not gonna have time to flip open a book. That's why it's important to know these things. This is the gateway to power servitude. All right, esoteric title, the Great One of the Night of Time. Now remember, Saturn relates to time. Nothing new under the sun. As consciousness is pouring into the material physical plane, it creates channels, pathways, it carves out into the ether, prana. That flow downward creates and propels us through time as we perceive it. Second after second, minute after minute, hour after hour, day after day, week after week. We experience time like that because of the immense pressure of the flow downwards toward Malkuth. Now, if you're able to expand past Tifereth, that downward pressure of time, you'll rise above it, and you'll notice that different things that may be interpreted differently. You might age slower. Hell, you might start to reverse in age as far as your body is concerned, right? Your days might seem like they're longer or shorter. Time is going to start to get kind of strange. And you're going to ask people, oh, is time speeding up? They're going to be like, oh, no, it's the same as always, right? Your perception of time will change once you expand past Tifereth. But anyways, most likely, the average person hasn't gone through this path fully. This is called the Great One of the Night of Time. Okay? Oh boy. Let's begin. So, 32 paths of wisdom. The 32nd path is the administrative intelligence, right? It administers the administrative intelligence. And I'm telling you, that's Prakriti. That's Prakriti. Don't think of nature and reality as something stupid or dumb. Nature and Prakriti has her own type of intelligence. Okay, it's her own type of intelligence. So while it may not be like your intelligence, as a matter of fact, it's going to be superior than human intelligence. Because look at it operate through bugs and through animals and through plants and through the weather, through nuclear fission and all these other things that happen without human interaction or human influence. That's the intelligence of nature doing what she does. If we all disappeared today, nature would reclaim the earth without skipping a beat. I'm talking about the moment humans leave this plane. Termites, ants, roaches, spiders, bigger bugs, bigger animals. The intelligence of nature would reclaim this whole place. So that's the mind of Prakriti. The 32nd path is the administrative intelligence, and it is so called because it directs and associates in all their operations the 7 planets. Remember I talked about that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Saturn, Jupiter, Mars, the Sun, Venus, Mercury, the Moon, right? So we're taking all these forces and compressing them into one path. Now, if you notice on the thumbnail of this video, you'll see a picture of a man holding the tree of life, but there's 2 paths missing. All these little pictures are clues. These are clues. So you'll notice that he's holding the tree by this very path that we're talking about, the universe, right? He's holding it by that path, but notice this path is missing and this path is missing, right? See that? That's not a mistake. That's a clue. And that's telling you that if you want to ascend on this tree, you've got to go the middle path. There is no direct connection between Malkuth and the left path or the right path. Now, later on, those 2 paths have been added to demonstrate a type of existence, a type of experience. But it's going to be very difficult for an initiate who's just starting out to go up the tree on those 2 paths. Hell, it's hard enough going up this path. But notice he's holding the whole tree by this path. And what that represents is your entire experience of the inner planes is going to be determined by how you structure this path and how you structure the etheric plane. Because if you have this part messed up, you're not going to have a strong enough foundation. All right, I hope you get that. 7 planets, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, all compressed down to this path. He's holding that path because it's arguably the most important. If the understanding of this experience is screwed up, the rest of it is definitely going to be screwed up. All right, let's keep going. 72. See that number? Awesome. Greetings, everybody. Peace. Lotus O Drake, peace. Straight Panther, peace. Shinobi Anobi, Hope and Walsley, peace. Let me know if you guys are getting this. Let me know if you're understanding. Let me know if you don't. Let me know something, because I'm gonna try to get this all out without stopping too much. But I also don't want to just, there's certain things that, if understood, can make this whole process easier. So let me know. Okay. So one more time, the 32nd path is the administrative intelligence, and it is so called because it directs and associates in all their operations the 7 planets, even all of them in their own due course. We'll notice this as the pull of astrology. Right? All right. Study of the paths begins not with the first card, the Fool, right? I love how this thing is all set up, and it's like people jump to the predictable traps. And I don't say traps like, oh, look out, but traps is in if you go in a way that is not efficient, you're going to get stuck. And most people think, oh, I'm going to study the tree, let's do Kether down. No. If you don't have an experience personally of Kether, how can you go Kether down? No, you got an experience of Malkuth. Lotus O'Drake says ego traps. Exactly. That's what that is. So you've got an experience of Malkuth. You can start here. You don't have an experience of Kether. You can't start here. So you're not going to start with the Fool card. What do I mean by that? From Kether, the first path is the Fool. What we have to start with is the universe, not the moon, right? Not judgment. Now here's the thing, this is just a side note. The quickest path to Kether is through the left-hand path. But you have to know something. You have to have come down the tree on this path. And that's going to be from judgment to Hod, which is study, right? Up to right, the hanged man to Gibura, right? So look what's happening here. You're going from the regular world. You face judgment early, right? Early judgment in your waking life. Now you're committed to the study and the analysis of the occult. And through that study and analysis, like the hanged man, you're turned upside down, right? Let me get these cards out so you can have an experience of what I'm saying here, right? So imagine going from Malkuth straight to judgment. This card alone is scary to a lot of people. You think the devil card is scary? This card is scary to a lot of people. This is a side note, by the way. The quickest path to Kether is the occult path, and this is why. You go from Malkuth up to judgment, right? That right there is going to trim the fat. It's going to separate the men from the boys, the women from the girls. And that's going to lead to an experience of Hod, which we know of as the student, the disciple of the guru. This is where you study and you take it seriously. I mean, hell, you already faced judgment. Ain't nothing else in life really worth too much of your attention. But anyways, from study, what happens is you start to see the world upside down now. You start to see the world from a different perspective. And we get that symbolized by this card, right? Now keep in mind, that T right there is also the letter Tau. Didn't we just hear about Tau? The path of Tau, right? That's just a little sign. That's what we're seeing here. Now he's enlightened. He's not condemned to death. I mean, he's condemned to death as far as like watching the ball game and going to the grocery store to chop it up about some bullshit. He's dead to that. But he sees life from a different perspective. All the blood is rushing to his head, right? He's enlightened now. That's what happens. Now you get to the path of Gibura, which we learned about recently, has to do with the cutting away of the nonsense. It has to do with the sword of balance, of equilibrium, right? The Gibura force, very important. Now here's the thing. Once you start to slicing away all the stuff in life that doesn't matter anymore, you start to get left with fewer and fewer things. And when you're left with fewer and fewer things, as you begin to dissolve that ego and consider what's truly important, you start to make the leap across our favorite place, which is Doth, right? You make that leap, you jump across, simply by being isolated through your internal judgment, through your study, through having your world turned upside down, and then using the sword on yourself to cut this nonsense out, right? That allows you to be left with nothing but the truth. And in that truth, you have the opportunity to jump across the abyss and make it back to Chakma. And finally, now you can experience the Fool card, because that's what's experienced in this Sephira right there. Bam. You see what I'm saying? Now you can reach enlightenment through study, right? But it has to be done just like that. Not in order, but these different experiences must come. You must have an initiation in these experiences. And I don't mean just a little bit. I mean like your world is actually turned upside down. Not so you can talk about it to your friends, because hell, by the time you hit that judgment stage, ain't gonna be no friends. You know nobody understands what the hell you're talking about. So you're literally forced to be sacrificed as the only one, right? See, we make memes, right? Nowadays we make memes and we talk about how Donald Trump or whoever, right? We don't like this person, so we're gonna make a little silly meme and make them look funny so we can laugh at them, right? Well, back in the day, before they had computers and tablets, they had drawings. And what they used to do is they used to draw the king like this, hung upside down by his feet. And it was embarrassing. Like, the king was a symbol of authority and power. And for some peasant to draw the king hanging upside down like this, how dare they? Right? So they're ridiculed, they're laughed at, and sometimes that got some people in a lot of trouble. That's where this symbology comes from. You're the king. Remember I talked about my last live stream, A vision of Thoth is being this king, having everything. And your final experience is to go to prison. So you're locked up behind bars, you got everything, but none of that matters. Because as you look out the window, you see this bright light shining in the distance. And as you long to want to be free, you realize that the prison is your body and your physical experience. And once you become one with that light through your desire, you transcend the physical experience and you make it across the abyss. So, the king being hung upside down also alludes to that. Imagine being a king, right? And you get all this, you get the most shameful thing happen to you. And instead of breaking down, getting mad, and killing people, you reach enlightenment because your ego has been rendered, it's been torn asunder. Now you can see, right? Just like with Buddha or Christ, they weren't just people. They were royalty. They were rich. They had money. They had followers. They had everything. But they gave it all away because they saw something. Gosh, we didn't even get to the damn chapter yet. But anyways, this is what happens. And once all that stuff is realized, you have the opportunity to cross the abyss this way. Recently, I've been talking about crossing the abyss this way, the right-hand path. But there's a way to do it this way. And this way is very difficult. But Trev, what's the basis of this? You just making this up? How do I know to trust what you're saying? Well, this is where the symbology is so important, guys. You don't take nothing that anybody says just because they say it. You look at the symbology. Now, what we have, symbology-wise, is a relationship with those paths. I'm trying to flip to a diagram. Oh, look, by the way, there's a picture of the tree. Those three paths that I just named are the three mother letters, right? There we go. So if you notice here, you got fire, water, and air. Remember what I said about threes? That's the three gunas. Air is sattva, water is tamas, fire is rajas. So bam, up through rajas, up through tamas, across the abyss, and now air, sattva. Those three are different from the other paths because they're represented by the pure elements. All the other paths are represented by the planets and the zodiac signs. So there's three ways to go up the tree. Okay, that was a tangent for the advanced occult Kabbalistic student. But let's get back on track, okay? Hope I didn't lose anybody with that. Sly asks, why jump across to Hakma instead of up to Bina? Well, here's the thing. It's not even a choice. It's more about what you're more inclined to do, right? It's a type of person. One person is, there it is. That's the picture I was looking for. See? And then across to here. Traditionally, there is no path that goes across. There's no path that goes from here to here. No path from here to here. Only this path is shown. But that doesn't correlate with the lightning flash down or the snakes going up. So basically, by the time you get to this level, you're either on this side or you're on this side. And it's not Sith and Jedi. It's more of the type of energy that you express. Either you're one who, for lack of better words now, one who tears down or one who builds up. Right? That doesn't mean good or bad, because both are necessary. Or you're one who sustains. But if you find yourself on this path, that's when you jump across Thoth like that. If you find yourself on this path, that's when you jump across like that. Okay, now. Jeez Louise. Study of the past begins not with the first card, the Fool, but with the last, the universe. This is because we ascend the tree of life, working from our material perspective below to the realms of pure spirit above. Our understanding of the more refined universal patterns is based on what we learn on this earth. It is with the earth that serious esoteric work begins and ends, as long as our divine consciousness is functioning through a physical vehicle. The path of Tao, the universe, joins Malkuth, the earth, with Yesod, the foundation. It is the first path out of the material condition and leads towards an understanding of the personality, forged by the higher self of Tifereth for each incarnation. The 32 Paths of Wisdom calls this the administrative intelligence and says that it directs and associates in all their operations the 7 planets. Symbolically, this path connects the earth with the balanced powers of Microprosopus, represented by the hexagram, the 7 planets on the Tree of Life. Tau is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Bam. Between Aleph and Tau is the entire universe, referred to in Christian Greek terms as the Alpha and the Omega. So that's the Alpha and Omega. The Alpha is the fool. Bam. The Omega is the universe. So when you see in the Bible, they talk about I'm the Alpha and the Omega. This is what they're talking about. The first path, manifestation, and the last path. And even on your way back out. Bam. So that right there goes to show that you don't ascend the tree by these 2 paths, because it's all also linked up with the Hebrew alphabet. That's just, and what this is, the fact that everything links up with this, that, and the third, is because these are different ways to check and see if you're on the right track. So it has to make sense in every symbolic system. So the fact that this is the last Hebrew letter, that's the first, tells you that these are 2 ends of a conduit. You got to cross both of them. I am the Alpha and the Omega. I wonder which goddess is this. Let's continue. And also, when you see that wand right there with those 2 tips like that, what he's doing is that's directing. You're directing with that wand. You're directing the forces of nature with that wand. So the fact that it has the point on the above and the point on the bottom is that it shows the polarity. It can be positive or negative, pulling down or pushing out. That double-sided wand right there means we're dealing with the polarities. He's directing the energies of the 4 elements, but he can direct any one of those 4 in a positive way or a negative way. Look at those lovely roses across the top. Look, it's 144. Ether Being says, do you know about Metatron's cube? The light prisms that trap our light bodies in physical form. I wouldn't use the word trap, but we're actually going to get into that. Probably not in the way that you heard it, but in the way according to Kabbalah and tarot cards. Matter of fact, I flipped through, and you may have seen a picture of such a cube. I'll show it real quick, as we will get into it as we continue. If I can find it again. Place a bookmark this time. There's that hexagram that she talked about. Notice where Saturn is. You see? Doth. Yes, it's here, but for the sake of this hexagram, Doth stands in place. Because as you can see, there's no direct path going up. It's going to have to be either from here or here, or from here and here. But anyways, let's keep going. I'm looking for that image of the cube, because we are going to get into that. It's figure 29. 18. Okay, here we go. Figure 26. There's the cube. Okay, so what you're seeing here is a cube. We've got above. Remember what I said on my like the past 2, 3, 4, 5 live streams is that, oh my gosh, there's so much information here. I'll put this here as a bookmark. What I said is that when you're operating below the abyss, you are bound within space, right? Not only are you bound within time, but now you're also bound within space. And what is space? Space is the 6 directions: above, below, north, south, east, west, and center. That's space. Well, north, south, above, below, north, south, east, west, right? The center is the 7th. That's locked within time. So I guess like what you said, trapped in a physical body. Now, once you go past Doth, whether you go this way or that way, once you cross out of Doth, now you start to reach upon time and extend past time. But as long as you're up under time, you have to deal with those 6 directions, right? And this is what we're looking at here. The center is you and your consciousness. And you've got above, which is the magician, below is the high priest, right? Then you got over here, north above, south above, north below, south below, all these different directions, and all the different cards are going to be placed in one of these directions. But check out what's at the very center, the universe. Everything is based upon, hinged upon the foundation of understanding the 30-second path. Like I said before, if this is screwed up, the rest is screwed up, because this is literally the foundation of your experience. So check this out. You might be able to close your eyes and astral project. But if your foundation is faulty, all the stuff that you're going to see, you're going to misinterpret. Period. Because having this is the key to understanding it all. I'm just reading through the comments real quick. Anna Molly says, trigonometry is like that. Many ways to check your answer without an answer key. Triangulation. It's all triangle math. Exactly. That's why there's so many different correspondences with the Tree of Life, because it's different ways for you to check to make sure you're on the right track. Excellent point. Lotus Drake, you keep telling me about Warframe. I don't know anything about Warframe. But I know you guys, I know that you specifically have been telling me to watch that. Jancy Lewis, peace, cuzzo, peace. All right, so that's the cube. That's Metatron's cube. Understanding that this is what space is, and it's underneath time. And every angle is represented by a type of experience that can be had within the physical plane. All right, let's get to it. So, the hexagram, the 7 planets. I already showed that picture. Tau is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet, right? Remember, Omega, Alpha and the Omega. God says, I am the Alpha and the Omega. You come into the universe through this path, you leave through this path, right? The entrance and the exit. There's more symbology on that, but I don't know if you guys are ready for that. And what I mean is the fact that it is you got a woman here, right? Yet here there's a man. The path with the woman, the universe, is right below, and there's the princess. There's a connection here that is dealt with in sexuality, because if you remember from the Ladder of Lights, this is where you start. People say, "Oh, we chose to come back. We chose what parents we have." This is where the Archangel Gabriel has a function of assigning your soul a body. So that does deal with the mysteries of reincarnation through sex. But that's not what this is about specifically. Gosh, there's so many different things, but let's stay on track. Tau is the last letter of the Hebrew alphabet. Between Aleph and Tau is the entire universe, referred to in Christian Greek terms as the Alpha and the Omega, the beginning and the end. Tau means to cross. T, traverse, Travis. Tau means to cross. A T cross as well as one which is equal armed, which is appropriate to its position on the cube of space as described in the Sefer Yetzirah. Check this out, cube of space, T cross. Remember what we learned recently about Chesed. Chesed, one of its symbols, according to Dion Fortune, is what? One of the symbols nope, that's Gibera, my bad. Chesed. Alright, the solid figure, the tetrahedron, the pyramid, equal arm cross, orb, wand, scepter. And also, since the number is 4, not quite a cube. The cube is going to be Tifereth. Alright. The book refers to Tau as the palace of holiness, sustaining all things. It is both power and servitude. And, when considered on the cube of space, it is to be found at the exact central point of the 3 maternal letters. Oh, I did not bookmark that page. There we go. So, remember what I mentioned earlier about the easiest path to go up? Remember what I said? I said it was the path of judgment, hanged man, jump across the abyss, the fool. I mentioned that's the easiest path, right? Practically, what does that mean, Travis? That means you're going to face judgment yourself while alive, and that's going to drive you to a point of meticulous study and examination of reality, which will lead to a change in perspective, which will lead to slicing away the nonsense, which will lead to an experience of crossing the abyss and making it back to divinity, so to speak. That is one of the ways, one of the rare ways. And I said that's because that's represented symbolically by the 3 gunas. All the other paths are represented by the planets and the astrological signs, but those 3 represented by fire, air, and water, which relate to the 3 gunas. Now, if you notice on this cube, the universe is at the center. And look what we have. We got the Fool card, we got the Judgment card, and the Hanged Man. Right? So just like if you were just like an actual matrix, what makes us the cube of space, Metatron's cube in the matrix, right? Because what does that mean? Do we just say Metatron's cube? What does that actually mean? Well, this is what that means. In order for something to actually be in a matrix, it has to be able to be tracked on a X, Y, Z axis grid. You guys have seen a chart before, like it's like a 3D chart. The up and, because this is space, right? And it says 6 directions. You got up and down. So going up and down, that's the Fool card. Going across left and right, that's the Judgment card. But then going this way, in and out, that's the Hanged Man card. So those are the 3 axes which the universe is centered in. Right? So this experience of the universe, the astral plane, this world card, that's at the crux. That's where the experience of the Hanged Man, Judgment, and the Fool intersect. They intersect to create this. The harmony and the balance of Raja, Sattva, and Tamas intersect to create the experience of the astral plane, or this world card, the first step on the path. Vectors are angels. Thank you, Lotus Drake. Angles. Yes, the vectors. Yes. Like I said, this is not beginner level stuff, but if you do know some of this already, then it's just going to start making sense. So, Tau is the place of holiness, sustaining all things. The place of holiness, sustaining all things. So Drake says, if that is the world, then the goddess must be Maya. And which one of these three would be Maya? Honestly, all three. Honestly, all three. Because look at this. Top of Shooty, page 45. 1, 2, 3. Right? And these three represent the three goddesses, don't they? Iksha, Kriya, and Jnana. Willing force, activating force, knowing force. But look what they all three resolve into. Maya. All three of the goddesses are Maya. So you're not wrong. But which one of these specifically? Maya is a feminine force, and Maya is the combination of all three of the goddesses. Let's keep going. The answer will reveal itself in due time. And it's kind of important too. Which one of the three goddesses can I focus on to improve my relationship with the astral plane? Okay, so once again, the place of holiness, the sustainer of all things. That's a big ass clue right there. If you know, you're gonna figure it out right now. If you know, you're gonna figure it out right now. Rajas, Sattva, and Tamas. Alright, and what's it say? It says, Tao, the place of holiness, the sustaining of all things. It is both power and servitude. Power going up, servitude going down. And when considered on the cube of space, it is to be found at the exact central point of the three maternal letters, Aleph, Mem, and Shin. The symbolic forms of energy from which manifestation was created, aka the gunas. The path of the universe, bam, is the key to all of this, because it falls at the point where they all cross. Refer again to the cube picture I just showed. This crossing point, where these primary energies are balanced, is the sanctum sanctorum of the devotional mysteries. Devotional mysteries. So I wonder, maybe this is who I should be performing bhakti to. Uh-oh, it's getting more important now. Some writers have even described this path as heaven. Oh, interesting. Heaven. Or nirvana, meaning that here one experiences the consciousness of the greater universe and ultimate reality by comparison with our sensory condition. It says by comparison with our sensory condition. And by the formula of as above, so below, we understand that our experience of the completed universal pattern below tells us something about the creator above. Even though this is the first path, y'all, everything else hinges upon it. That's why in my Inner Light Activation System course, the focus was on the etheric plane. That's the screen to your computer. And if your screen is cracked, you're going to have trouble seeing what the computer presents. See, you got a computer or the phone. What you see on the screen is the end result of a lot of process and a lot of data, right? The coding of that program and that software doesn't look like that. It's just a bunch of ones and zeros. But it's been put in such an interface that allows you to look at it and see colors and pictures and hear sounds and stuff. That's the after result of a lot of work. So the etheric plane, Yesod, is the after result of a lot of work. The universe, Yesod, the etheric plane, is the after effect of a lot of work. Astral plane, mental plane, spiritual plane, all that stuff finally boils down to what we receive in the astral, in the etheric. Stressing the importance of this area. One symbol which can be applied to both the Fool and the universe, the beginning and the end, is the swastika, or Gamadion. In Kether, its arms spin so rapidly that they merge and are perceived as a unified point. Such is the lesson of the Fool. On the path of the universe, however, it can be said that the swastika has slowed its spin so that each of the arms is completely perceptible and are seen to be perfectly balanced around the central point. This is the complete expression of the one in matter. So if you guys have a ceiling fan, you know when you turn it on at full speed, it looks like a blur. But you can slow it down to the slowest speed and notice that it's spinning so slow you can actually see all four of the little blades of the fan turning. Well, isn't that a metaphor for the vibration of matter? When it's vibrating at the level of Kether, it's going so fast, you can't see the arms spinning. They look like one blur. But by the time that energy is slowed down to the point that we're able to perceive it down here in the material plane, it's moving so slow that it looks like it's solid. It's vibrating so slow that it looks like something fully formed that can be perceived with your five senses. So what that means is the higher you expand, the faster that wheel turns. The faster that wheel turns, which means that experiences begin to exist in a different type of experience, a different type of place. The astral, the mental, the spiritual. The difference is that they're vibrating and turning faster than what we are used to with our five senses. In discussing the universe, we are really discussing the world of matter. Most people have a dualist conception of themselves. They are body and mind. And when they dream or meditate, the images which come to them are considered to be divorced from the physical. Yet the mysteries have stated for generations that the cosmos is all mind, and that the distinction between mind and body is one of perception and not of actuality. It's perception, not actuality. In fact, when we close our eyes and see pictures, what we are first seeing is the most refined form of matter, the images and energy forms which are closest to the physical condition. The concept which must be grasped, an admittedly difficult one, is that most of the physical world is unseen. Oh my gosh. It is for this reason that on the scheme of the four worlds, the Malkuth of Asaya alone is described as our sphere of sensation. In other words, the Malkuth of Asaya alone is described as the sphere of sensation. What's that mean? The Malkuth of Asaya alone is the sphere of sensation. Look at this right here. So technically, there's 40 Sephirah. Let's see, 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 6, 9, 12. There's 128 paths from pure dense matter to the highest, most high God that can ever be conceived of, right? There's a lot. But only the very, see, if each one of these are different levels and stages going all the way up, the very bottom, just this little sphere alone, is the sphere of physical sensation. So look at all that there is beyond just what you can see, smell, taste, touch, hear, right? There's a lot of different distinctions, and they can all be explained by correspondence, by metaphor. It's literally a science and a type of mathematics that can be checked across the board with all these different correspondences, whether it's tarot, astrology, whatever. Okay, so one more time. What she said there was, the concept which must be grasped, and yeah, it's difficult, is that most of the physical world is unseen. It is for this reason that the scheme of the four worlds, the Malkuth of Asaya alone, because what I just showed you was the four worlds, Asaya being the bottom one, and the Malkuth, which is the bottom of the bottom, that bottom of the bottom is alone the sphere of sensation. So that's why I keep saying, anything that the spiritual stuff is not something material. It's not DNA because that's physical, that's material, right? It's not melanin because that's physical. It's not the food and vegan diet because that's physical. All that belongs to just the tiny, tiny percentage at the bottom. So more than likely you're dealing with something that you have no words for. You can't explain it, and it's not like anything that you're used to. The idea is symbolized in the card by the 7-pointed star, representative of the 7 palaces of Asaya. To experience the path of the universe is to be taken to the gateway of these 7 palaces. This path is the gateway to the 7 palaces. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. The universe symbolizes, right? And this is the universe. An alternate name for the world card is the universe, right? The universe symbolizes a path, right? See, this particular one's called the world, but in the Golden Dawn deck is called the universe, and in the Crowley deck it's called the universe, and the Rider White is called the world. Same thing though, same thing. The universe symbolizes a path where the components of the universal plan become apparent without necessarily being understood. That's key. It becomes apparent without necessarily being understood. One may enter the Holy of Holies and encounter these forces in such a way as to be in them, but not of them. In the world, but not of the world. What is important is that, as opposed to other paths, the energies are all present in their full expression and are self-balanced. This, as well as the idea that Tao is the central point of the Aleph, Mem, and Shin paths. Remember, this is in the very center. That's what's meant by the equal-armed cross. From the standpoint of practical mysticism, the universe may be considered the most important card in the deck. As far as practicality is concerned, as far as actually doing something, right? Not just talking about it, but as far as actually doing something is concerned, this is the most important card of the deck. That means you should probably meditate on this card, especially with what I'm about to get to here in the next 2 paragraphs. Check this out. Pay attention. This is where it starts to make sense, because I titled this about the astral plane. All right, that wasn't just clickbait. I know that's what people care about, so I had to put that in the title. But now we're about to get to what exactly I was talking about as far as the astral plane. From the standpoint of practical mysticism, the universe may be considered the most important card in the deck, for it is the point at which we begin the process of inner exploration. It is the point where we step abruptly into a reality that may be at once frightening and reassuring, because so much of what we encounter on this path is of our own making. By the way, that right there is symbolized by what's happening on the Judgment card. So I want you to understand something. You're going up the path of the universe, but depending on how you're living your lifestyle, it's either going to be flavored by that Judgment card, or it's going to be flavored by this card, which should be the Star card if I'm not mistaken. Nope, the Moon. Interesting, because it all leads to the Moon. But check out the symbology of this Moon card. In Ophio's book, The Art and Practice of Astral Projection, this is the card that he chose to represent that whole teaching, right? So your path of the universe, going up this, is either going to be left-hand tainted, right? And I already talked about that as far as, hey, we got this, get into the study and the practice, you start to separate from everything else. Quick, fast, in a hurry. Or it's going to be Orphic. Hermetic path, Orphic path. Hermetic path, Orphic path. But either way, you still got to go through the world. I think for myself, I'm on this path. So my journey through the 32nd path was heavily supported by this experience. Whereas for other people, yours is going to be heavily supported by this experience. That's these 3 paths right here. You're going to go up this one. That's where you are. But it's going to be heavily influenced by this or heavily influenced by that, depending on your makeup, your composition, your pattern, how you think. Make sense? Chat stopped again, so I don't know if y'all are still going. Oh wow, yep, I gotta scroll all the way back up, damn. Yep, I think for the first time, this chat is going so much that I'm not able to keep up with it. I'm just checking all the messages here because it froze on me for a while. Okay, I think we're good. Angel Essence asks, how do these energies differ and how they play out? So this is why it's so important to learn the symbology of these cards, because the symbology sets up the context for how it plays out. I'm describing now the world card, but just look at that picture. But also understand that this is a representative of the experience of fire. What kind of fire? The fire from actually, you remember that movie They Live, where he was trying to get the dude to put on the glasses, and when he put the glasses on, he saw the world for how it really was. The signs were actually subliminal commands to reproduce and to spend money, and certain people looked like these alien creatures that were only there to feed off of the sleeping masses. Well, that's an experience of the judgment card. You start to see things for the first time, right? And that alone starts to separate you from everything and everyone else, because now you see the world differently, but you don't quite get it yet. Remember what he said, or what he said in this book? He said that that's the part here where the plan becomes apparent, but it's not necessarily understood. That's the influence of that fire. You may not get it yet, but you start to see that, hey, there's something here that it's not what I thought it was. And as you continue your study, then you get the path of judgment. That's when you really start making these decisions. But that's what it would be like if this was tiered off to the left side. Off to the right side, you're gonna start having more. These are for the other people who still get these downloads, but they're not reading books like me all the time. They're doing other things. Like they might get these downloads from just being in nature, or just from drawing or painting or creating or doing something more instinctual and artistic and expressive, right? They may even get these enlightenments from dance. I don't know. I'm not on that path, so I don't know. But it's more intuitive, right? But still, they can't break it down. They get it, but they don't get it to the level where they can break it down, right? So these are two different directions that you're going up on this world path. Now, as you can see, the potential for getting confused and disoriented is very much there. You get me? All right, let's keep going. If you feel both, he says, what if you feel both? Well, good. Keep going. That means keep going. Keep going. It'll sort itself out. At no point are you going to be exclusively singled out, because it's the process of sifting through data, right? As you sift through more and more data, it becomes very, very clear which side you're on. So keep sifting through data, and then you'll start to see what side you veer off towards the most. Because sure, anybody can be anything, but if your goal is to make it to the end of this race, you're going to have to get into a very specific track, right? The middle path is possible, but it's extremely difficult because you've got to master discernment to the point of non-attachment. And non-attachment doesn't mean that you avoid it because it hurts your feelings. Non-attachment means you look it in the eyes and you say, even if, so what? All right, let's wrap this up. Let's keep going. Let's keep going. We're almost there. Almost there. Bear with me, y'all. Trust me, it gets there. Just hold on. Now, where were we? So, again, from the standpoint of practical mysticism, the universe may be considered the most important card in the deck, for it is the point at which we begin the process of inner exploration. It is the point where we stepped abruptly into a reality that may be at once frightening and reassuring, because so much of what we encounter on this path is of our own making. It is on this path that we encounter our own individual personality consciousness. All that is inside our heads, divorced from the security of physical reality. Check this out. You ever have some thoughts that pop into your head that are kind of scary? Like, holy shit, what if I'm just a piece of cheese on a graham cracker about to be eaten? You know, have you ever had like a thought that was like so out there that it actually kind of scared you? You ever had that? Hell, I had one earlier today. But the thing is, you look around and you got this physical plane and it's like, nah, this world can't be a piece of cheese on a cracker about to be eaten. That just doesn't make sense, right? Obviously, I'm not thinking that this is a cheese cracker world, but come on, use your brain. Get what I'm saying here. It's a metaphor. You'll see or you'll experience something that's just so out there that it can actually cause a reaction in you, right? But the thing is, you don't go drifting off into cuckoo land because you have the physical world to say, you know what? Obviously, that's not true, right? That's why I say, even if, so what? So check out what he said here. It's the point where we step abruptly into a reality that may be at once frightening and reassuring, because of much of what we encounter on this path is of our own making. It is on this path that we encounter our own individual personality consciousness. All that is inside our heads, all of it in your head, the good and the bad, divorced from the security of physical reality. So once you're on this path, you're very liable to be exposed to those kind of thoughts, right? Very liable to be exposed to those kind of thoughts, except you don't have nothing around you to say, oh, it's just a dream. You can't pinch yourself. Now you really got to maintain your frame. That's why I keep saying maintain your frame, because when you get here, you really got to maintain your frame, because you're liable to see something that can throw you off, but you can't pinch yourself here. You got to face it, look at it, and say, even if that was true, I'm still here, right? Even if this world was a piece of cheese on a cracker and I'm about to get chewed up, even if that was true, so what? You have to build up enough solid courage to be able to do that. Duh, I'm not talking about no damn cheese. But, oh my God, what if this really was a concentration camp computer program and they're just siphoning my energy, or whatever kind of story that you might come up with? Look it in the eyes. Because if you're not able to do that, the fear keeps you trapped up under that. And it more than likely is just an illusion. It's more than likely not even true. Whatever conspiracy theory you got is probably not true. But you don't know it until you look it in the eyes. Archangel Raphael says that's how a bad mushroom trip is. You have nothing to cling on to. Yes, sir, that's it. WT says, Trav, this was amazing. I felt a video was coming, but I ain't know it would be like this. You came in hot, and I love that. Way more dots connected, ideas solidified. Yes, my friend, yes. I had to do this. Fear is the mind killer. Lotus O Drake. Alright, let's keep going. We're almost there. Plus I've got to do something there too. Alligator says, just like when the experienced Swami became a tree as he was riding along a car one day. Right, right. All right, let's keep going. We're almost there. Almost to that paragraph that really made me want to make this video. All right, so check this out. Now we're getting closer to this astral stuff, right? We're not there yet, but we're almost there. One, two paragraphs left. All right. It is the intention of the personality into its own structure. Excuse me. It is the initiation of the personality into its own structure, which is a microcosmic universe. At the same time, we encounter symbols and ideas which are of a greater consciousness than our own, right? We encounter symbols and ideas which are of a greater consciousness than our own. Look, there are things that are more intelligent and more conscious than you. There are things that are more intelligent and more conscious than you. This is where you meet them, right? There's not no, oh, but I don't want to cuss at a demon. I treat them as friends. No, you're not even on these things levels to be a friend. There are intelligences that are greater than you, and many that are greater than even those. Right? And you begin to see the ways in which our being relates to a total universal picture. Maybe you can start to understand why I talk about this stuff the way that I do. Because I done seen, man, this little stuff that we worried about is nothing. Nothing. CJ says, does the three goddesses somehow relate to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva? Absolutely. Absolutely. Each one of those goddesses are consorts to Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva, right? They're the same thing, actually. They're both the same thing, just the masculine version and the feminine version, the positive and the negative, the consciousness version and the matter version. So yeah, they are the same thing. I could say three gods, three goddesses. I'm literally talking about the same thing. This is a path which can only be successfully traveled by those who have begun to bring their personalities into a self-understanding balance. This is why I kept saying, all right, before doing any kind of Goetia stuff, gotta do shadow work. Imagine all these people that are trying to jump to Goetia and demons and this, that, and the third, but they don't have a balance of themselves or an understanding of what they are or anything, right? Imagine jumping into this deeper occult stuff without touching shadow work. This is why these people be turning out the way they do. And this is why people think that they know what they're talking about, but it's obvious that they do not. This is a path which can only be successfully traveled by those who have begun to bring their personalities into a self-understanding balance. Those who have not will find themselves tormented by phantoms of their own making and the gates closed to them. This is why, this is the delusion of the astral plane. You're going to trap yourself. On the other hand, those who have truly come to grips with the life experience will find inner help and encouragement at every step. That's me. Is that you? Those who have truly come to grips with the life experience will find inner help and encouragement at every step. Is that you? Is that you? It is on the path of the universe that one discovers the extent to which the process of inner exploration is guided, y'all. You start to see, I'm not even the one driving the bus. I'm a passenger on this bus, and I can see the driver from here. I'm looking out the window. I'm wearing a seatbelt on the bus. It is on the path of the universe that one discovers the extent to which the process of inner exploration is guided, and particularly the very real protection and assistance given mankind by the archangels. Until one begins to see these exercises, Until one begins these exercises, the archangels are merely an abstraction, something in which one can vaguely believe or disbelieve. Look, these forces, I don't believe in them or disbelieve in them. I've worked with them, right? There's a difference. You might be looking at this, oh, I don't believe in astrology. What the hell? Oh, well, I just don't believe in that stuff. It's not about belief. You just don't have any experience with it, right? Right? I can say I don't believe in drinking beer out of a hot dog as a straw because I don't have no experience with that. But there's a very real dude somewhere at some ball game who put a hole through his glizzy and stuck it into his drink and used it as a straw. He don't believe it or disbelieve it. He does it. I don't know nothing about that. I don't know about that life. Likewise, oh, I don't believe in astrology. No, it's not about belief. We're talking about patterns, right? We're talking about experience. That's what makes this card so important. A word of caution might be in order here, insofar as the universe is a path of entry to the astral, right? Right? Not just thinking about someone that you met on Facebook that you want to have astral sex with, right? Or whatever y'all doing on Facebook. A word of caution might be in order here. Insofar as the universe is a path of entry to the astral, it must be reiterated that the astral seeks to deceive. You see it in the black and white? You see it in the black and white. It must be reiterated that the astral seeks to deceive. What's that mean, Trav? A great many people believe themselves to be on one path or another when they are, in actuality, entertaining themselves with an extended fantasy. Oh, we done. That's it. I'll see y'all later. We're gonna do a live stream of Tifereth tonight. That sentence right there was it. Fuck it. I don't have to read the rest of it. But if you missed it, let's say it one more time for the folks in the back. Say it one more time for them folks in the back. A word of caution might be in order here. Insofar as the universe is a path of entry to the astral, it must be reiterated that the astral seeks to deceive. A great many people believe themselves to be on one path or another when they are, in actuality, entertaining themselves with an extended fantasy. Is that you? Is that you? And don't be ashamed. You don't have to say it in this chat, but look in that mirror and say, damn, okay, I need to get better. If that's you, look in the mirror and say, you know what? It's time for me to step it up. Right? Don't try to impress me or nobody in this chat. Just think about what's being said here. Right? Just think about what's being said here. Okay. The astral seeks to deceive. A great many people believe themselves to be on one path or another when they are in actuality entertaining themselves with an extended fantasy. We must be extremely cautious in accepting any of the images which appear to us a reality of any sort until we have applied every test of reason and feeling. Do you just accept what the hell you see, or do you test it? Even the Bible tells Christians, test the spirit by the spirit. It don't say just believe what the hell you see when you close your eyes. If I did that, I wouldn't be able to make these damn videos, y'all. Just because you receive something don't mean it's true. Test it all. You don't believe or disbelieve nothing. You test it. That's why you build correspondences. That's why we read the books. That's why you meditate. That's why we do all this stuff. Because we understand that once you step on this path, you're liable to see any goddamn thing. But if you're in such a hurry to open your third eye, you're just going to believe everything you see, and you're not going to go past. Like I said, this is the first step for everyone and the last step for most folks. Because you believe everything you see. Or maybe you don't have enough discernment. I don't know if y'all hear what I'm saying. I'm gonna assume that you do. I'm gonna assume that you do. Like it gets real serious when look at here. Look at here. Malkuth. This is the bottom of the tree, man. Look at the virtue. The virtue of Malkuth is discrimination. Do you see that? It's discrimination. That's the virtue of Malkuth, discrimination. If you don't have that, you're not doing any of the stuff you're talking about you're doing. You're not astral projection. You're not meditating. You're sitting down thinking about your grocery list. Discrimination is the virtue. That's the first power. That's a superpower. That's got to be mastered before we talk about doing anything. Right? Before, how do I open up my kundalini? How do I crack open my third eye? How do I bust open my prana? Before you talk about any of that, you need to learn what discrimination is. Right from wrong, efficient from inefficient, what's real and what's unreal. If you don't have that key, nothing that I say and nothing that you read matters in your world at all. I'm a hope for the best, man. And it's not that I doubt any of you personally. It's just that I know the statistics, man. I know the statistics. I know the stats. Very few people are going to get this. Nothing like I know some of y'all personally. Nothing against you. But the majority of folks are not going to get this. As simple as this stuff sounds to me, if you're not able to look at this stuff and look in the mirror and apply it to yourself, we must be extremely cautious in accepting any of the images which appear to us as a reality of any sort, until we have applied every test of reason and feeling. There comes a time when we know that what we are experiencing could not possibly be of our own making, because we are actually learning, right? How can I be making this up if I'm still learning it, right? There's a point where some of the stuff you're receiving is like, damn, this is really, really coming from somewhere else. We are acquiring new information which can often be verified or corroborated by research. One way or the other, a considerable amount of the gross must be sorted out before we come to the subtle, right? A considerable amount of the gross must be sorted out before we can come to the subtle. So when you start doing this work, there's a lot of stuff that is not useful or efficient. And if you don't have discernment, how can you know the difference? This is one of the most important lessons of the universe, which is this card. A path which must be approached with the virtue of Malkuth, that of discrimination. It is only through discrimination that we can place ourselves in the administrative balance, symbolized by the dancing woman draped with the calf-shaped scarf, which is a reference to the Wheel of Fortune. Wheel of Fortune. Where you at, Wheel of Fortune? Oh yeah, over here. Over here somewhere. Well, you know what that card looks like. Oh, there it is. There's a few more similarities to these two as well. Notice the four corners of this image. All All right, so the woman draped in the calf-shaped scarf, a reference to the Wheel of Fortune, and surrounded by the animal symbols of the four elements. Of course, we know these four animals represent the four elements. They're the fixed signs of the zodiac: Scorpio, Aquarius, Taurus, Leo, fire, earth, air, water. So I wonder what her role is, right, with the wands directing the energy of the four elements. Check this out. In Kabbalistic terms, what is represented is, again, the principle of the four united by a fifth, which is spirit. See this symbol? Here we may recall that the earliest Kabbalists, as in the Sefer Yetzirah, discussed only three elementals: air, water, and fire, with earth and spirit being a later addition to the philosophy. Shout out to Franz Barton. And as we have seen, the tree of life has changed form over the centuries to accommodate such conceptual changes. By the way, you got 5 elements, right? Whoops. And according to these mother letters, the only 5 elements are water, fire, and air. And when there's 3, we get that it's the 3 gunas, right? Which are going to be tamas, rajas, and sattva. Now, what we learned from initiation into Hermetics and some other things is that the culmination of these 3 elements together make the 4th, which is earth. So what earth actually is, and get this, with fire being active and water being passive, it's air that is the intermediary in between, sattva. So together it all forms earth. According to Hermeticism, earth isn't actually an element. And according to this Kabbalah, earth is represented as what your body is and your environment. Then, of course, that 5th element is what actually animates all the rest of it, puts the rest of it into action. So, that being said, here we may recall that the earliest Kabbalists discussed only 3 elements: air, water, and fire, with earth and spirit being a later addition to the philosophy. And as we have seen, the tree of life has changed form over the centuries to accommodate such conceptual changes. One such important change has related to the 32nd path, which in some schemes is the only path connecting the sphere of sensation to the rest of the tree. And that's the picture that I have in the thumbnail, right? Some say the only path, and I discussed that because that's the direct path to Yesod. The other 2 paths that are missing from here are more like flavoring, accent, influence. So one such important change has related to the 32nd path, which in some schemes is the only path connecting the sphere of sensation to the rest of the tree. The addition of the paths of Shin, which is judgment, and Kaf, which is the moon, while primarily bringing the number of paths in line with the Hebrew alphabet, secondarily declared a direct connection between Malkuth and the 2 side pillars. One very interesting illustration from the 16th century shows a man holding the entire tree by the path of the universe. That's this image here, right? So we see that for 400 years at least, the essential interpretation of this path as an experiential foundation for consciously traveling all of the other paths has not been changed, though the concept has been slightly mitigated by the addition of the 2 paths. The principle that we grasp the entire tree through what is taught on the path of the universe is very profound, and brings us back to the idea of the as above, so below. We have discussed the will to form of Bina, the Great Mother, which is the origin of life consciousness, and which is Saturn in the exalted supernal realm. This is the same energy, now completely expressed, found on the 32nd path. The female figure at the center of the card is the fullest expression of the Great Mother, who is the Empress. There's the answer. The Great Mother, who is the Empress. Number 3, that's also Bina, Lakshmi, Sattva. Central path, right? Balance, harmony. So the Queen has come to her full power in this final card. Thank you, Lotus O'Drake. Sly says, some say the universe card depicts a hermaphrodite, hence the covered waist. Exactly. That's what I referenced to earlier, that I wasn't going to get into. Petty Midnight Gospel, peace. Okay, almost done. So the female figure at the center of the card is the fullest expression of the Great Mother, who is the Empress. She is Isis, the Aima Elohim. She is Bina. She is Saturn. She is all the principles behind what we perceive as matter, the cosmic dancer, Akashic dancer, the cosmic dancer who administrators and activates the elements. She administers and activates the elements. She's also a doorway to and from Malkuth, Saturn, who both gives life and destroys it, the great tester who rules both birth and death. When we die, leaving behind our animal skin, it is on this path that we rise like the dancer symbolically surrounded by a ring of stars. All of the key tarot decks are agreed that the female figure should be surrounded by an oval shape of some sort. In Crowley's deck, this is a ring of stars. In the Marcel's deck and the Waite decks, this is a wreath. In the Golden Dawn deck, the oval is formed by 12 spheres, the 12 signs of the zodiac, bound together by 72 pearls, which are the Shem HaMephorash, or the 72 names of God, or to those of us, the 72 goetic spirits. What is symbolized is both the womb of a human female, right, through which the child passes in birth, and the great womb into which the soul passes into death. The profound symbolism of the Great Mother, through which one passes as a doorway to and from life, is unfortunately minimized by some writers, including Case, who state that tradition claims the female figure to be hermaphroditic. That idea is unreasonable, but may be an honest attempt on the part of some Kabbalistic theoreticians to reconcile the femininity of the path with the magical image of Yesod, into which it leads a beautiful naked man. If you don't know, the image of Yesod is a beautiful naked man. You see there? If you look at Yesod, because all of the 10 spheres, we know, have a symbolic meaning. Boom. Magical image, a beautiful naked man, very strong. We know that very strong part means a specific body part that is very strong and stiff. Why? Because it has to do with the sexual mystery of reproduction, reincarnation. And all the force of the top 9 spheres pouring down into the physical realm. Romani77 asks, is the androgen above the male and female? I would invite you to check the cover of Franz Barton's book, Initiation into Hermetics. Look at the cover of that book, you'll see 3 people on the cover. It's not an accident. None of the stuff is an accident. What is symbolized? Okay, I already read that. It might be an honest attempt on the part of some Kabbalistic theoreticians to reconcile the femininity of the path with the magical image of Yesod, into which it leads a beautiful naked man. The latter represents the eternal outpouring of the Christ Spirit from Tifereth, personified within Yesod before it passes down to Malkuth. The Christian mystery is not simply an event of 2,000 years ago to be recalled with reverence. In other words, Christ on the cross and all that stuff, that's not just a story to think about and say, oh, won't he do it? Jesus was so good, right? That's not what it's about, not to an occultist. It is a secret key to a natural pattern, right? You got a lot of misunderstood people talking about Jesus wasn't real. Christ, nah, fuck all that, man. That's confusion. No. It's meant to be a scientific, magical formula, right? You're not mad at Jesus and you're not mad at God. You're mad at what the people at the church did to you, right? Jesus never did nothing to you because Jesus is a symbol. Okay, so the Christ, Buddha, or Osiris, or Krishna, or Vishnu force continues to be born into our world, be sacrificed for the benefit of mankind, resurrected and assumed. Vishnu, Christ, right? And check this out. So that force, the Christ force, flowing, this is symbolic of ejaculation, impregnation, the seed pouring into from Kether, right? Look at what it says here. The force continues to be born into our world, matter of fact, I'll just put it to you right now. It needs to be born into our world, right? Rajas. What else does it say? Born into our world, sacrificed for the benefit of mankind, resurrected and assumed. So right there's three different things, Rajas, Tamas, Sattva. Look. Born into the world, sacrificed, resurrected. That's the three. That's Rajas, Tamas, and Sattva. Born into the world, Rajas. Sacrificed, Tamas. Resurrected, Sattva. This is like the Yod He Vav He, continual to the end of time. It's always going to be a Jesus figure, always going to be a Vishnu, Christ, Buddha. It's always going to be a little savior popping up. When one is gone, another one's going to pop up. It's an eternal thing. Right? It's an eternal thing. Rich nigga says, I am confused now. Where are you going with this study? Well, like I said at the beginning of this video, I don't know if you saw it from the beginning. This is not a beginner's video. So if you're on the beginner level, of course, it's going to be confusing. So that's that. As long as this is like the Yod He Vav He, continual to the end of time, which will be the end of the race's need for sensory experience. Time is, of course, one of Saturn's primary restrictions, right? As long as we are functioning within the framework of time and event, including the downpouring and uprising of Tifereth force, must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. Must have a beginning, a middle, and an end. That's what we're talking about. The three gunas. Always at the heart of this science. Always. Life process runs in waves or spirals, or Aum, A-U-M, which is also representative of this, right? It all ties back to these same patterns. Life process runs in waves or spirals which come back upon themselves. Literally talking about what I mentioned before about Aum, about Doth, and how Aum creates reality, right? This is the natural course of the Akashic fluid of Yasod. Akash. Aum. Thus again is the woman shown dancing. She swirls and revolves as opposed to her most abstract form of energy, the Empress. So the Empress is her abstract form, right? This one is a little bit harder to conceive of what's going on than this right here, right? Archangel Raphael says, Yo, Trav, do you think diseases and ailments on us are karmic punishment? I'm dealing with tinnitus, and some days I just want to give in. It's absolutely not a karmic punishment. There's not a such thing as karmic punishment. We're dealing with balance. Remember, Because you got to be careful with your words, man. Punishment means that there's an authority somewhere who casts judgment on you, and now that judgment means you're being punished. This is not about punishment. This is literally about this right here. And as it says, generation, operation, destruction. God, God, generator, operator, destroyer. We're dealing with processes. A process that is beginning, middle, and end. None of this is personal. Nothing in your life that has ever happened to you is personal. Because it's not happening to you. It's happening to the body and to the matter. Right? So no, I will not say it's a karmic punishment, because that's not a reality. If anything, it would help you to find the balance here. What are the benefits of having this? What are the benefits of having what you have? What is the good intention? What can you pull out? What can you extract out of this? How can this be helpful and useful to you? When you start finding that, you'll start to see that this is not a karmic punishment, but this is actually something to show you how reality is here to serve you, but from a different angle. So no, it's not a punishment. Okay, so she swirls around and revolves, as opposed to her most abstract form of energy, the Empress, where she is placed solidly on a supernal throne. This spiral force of nature is directed by the wands, right, by which she carries. They represent the active and passive energy, each of which has two poles. So there's an active energy of positive and negative, and a passive energy of positive and negative, right? Her dance and her twirling of these wands is directing the flow of the four elements. She's very much in control of matter. And depending on your relationship with her, depends on your relationship with how much of your reality you control. Plain and simple. All right, so let's wrap this up here. Crowley's card shows these natural forces as the serpent Kundalini, described as coiled in Yasad, right? The Kundalini is coiled in Yasad. This is a reference to the primary sexual forces of nature to be encountered with the universe. Like I said, there's a very sexual aspect here of creation and reincarnation, right? These are the forces which we learn to direct in ourselves and onto which we impose the strictures of Bina, the Great Mother, the Great Sea. That's literally your juice, your magic power. You channel that energy and you direct it in towards these four elements. That's what manifestation is. That's how we doing this thing. These are the forces which we learn to direct in ourselves and onto which we impose the strictures of Bina, the Great Mother and the Sea, the Great Sea. Water is very important to this path, which is the Great Sea of consciousness in its most dense and difficult expression. The 32nd path might be considered a dark cave, filled with treacherous caverns and tunnels, some of which lead to light, but others of which lead to the clip-off. The 32nd path might be considered a dark cave, filled with treacherous caverns and tunnels. The enigma of Amigara Fault, some of which lead to light, but others of which lead to the clip-off. If you're dealing with the astral plane and you don't have a criteria of how to interpret what you're experiencing, if you don't have discernment, that's the main thing. Discernment is the virtue of Malkuth. And if you don't have that, you're playing around with the clip-off. And not in the cool kind of way. In the kind of way where you don't know that you're playing with the clip-off, but you think you're making progress. That's the danger. disillusion, confusion, based on lack of discernment. So if you don't get anything else, I just threw a bunch of symbols at you, a bunch of explanations. I connected a bunch of dots. I also said this is not for beginners. However, if you're able to remember only one thing, please understand that the first step of expanding beyond the five senses into the world of spirit, that first step is the most important step, and that is represented by the universe or the world card. And in order to pass this first gate, which most people don't pass this gate, and it's easy to tell, just look and listen. In order to pass this gate, you've got to have what's called discernment. She's not able to conduct the symphony and the orchestra of the elements without discernment. Imagine not knowing fire from earth, from air, from water. You just out here throwing around your hands and just, doing anything, right? She's orchestrated. She knows what she's doing, right? These people know. These are very similar cards right here. You see that infinity sign? You see the wand? You see the four elements? The roses and the wreath? So if you ain't get nothing else, the key to success in the astral plane is discernment, because you will see any and everything eventually. And if you haven't learned discernment, if you haven't learned even if, so what, if you haven't learned that mantra, at some point, that deception will overtake you. And hopefully you come out of it soon. It's up to you though. All right, I gotta go. I actually cannot stay on here for much longer because I have an appointment. Consultations have begun once again. So, hope you learned something. I hope that this was useful to you. I hope this was useful to you. I hope that you have something to work with now. Sly says, why is resurrection attributed to the operator of God? That's a good question. Because birth is coming into this world, death is leaving, resurrection is eternal. So that resurrection does not involve birth, and it's after death, which means that it was the life before incarnation into a physical body. That's why. The resurrection is beyond birth and beyond death. It is life everlasting. That's why. CJ says discrimination is key. Samkhya means discriminative knowledge. Absolutely. 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 I hope you guys got this. This was huge. If you can't tell, maybe you're just starting out, and that's fine. But if you're somebody that's been doing this work, come on now. Discernment is key. The time for falling for the dumb shit is over with. It's over with. After all this damn work, and this is where we're at, that should let you know we ain't seen nothing yet. Right? You ain't seen nothing yet. We still got so much more to go. So be encouraged. Be encouraged. Get excited. This is good stuff. Thank y'all for being here. Thank y'all for, taking part in this. You got a full day to get you some work. I might come back on tonight and read the chapter about Tifereth. We'll see how I feel, basically. I didn't sleep last night. Pharaoh Fades says, what is the name of this book? I'm going to start it after the Mystical Kabbalah. Thank you. This book is called The Qabalistic Tarot by Robert Wang. I've been recommending this book for a while now. I'm so happy I got it. This is one of those few that I knew as soon as I opened it, it was going to change my life. So go ahead and get you that book. Tank 19 says, is there anyone else here? No, I think it's just me, buddy. Tank 19 says, is this still live? Ronald Chapman says, I fuck with it. This shit makes me emotional at times because, damn, we should all want to be our higher selves. Peace, I say. Okay. All right. Trust your unconscious. Trust your unconscious. The answer is not in the conscious mind, it's in the unconscious. All right? All right, I'm out. Once again, thank y'all for being here. This was a great experience. A lot of fun. Love it. Keep studying. Keep growing. Keep being awesome. Don't fool yourself. Look in the mirror and keep it real. All right, I'm out. This is TK Trav, aka Travis Magus, here with LVX777. I love you guys. Peace. Watch this replay, because there's a chance I might take this down. Too much sauce. This is the type of stuff you gotta sell.